There's a sound that has lingered in the dimly lit corners of many basements and living rooms, a warm resonance that carried the heartbeat of post-war America into the amber glow of the 70s. But what happened to the name that personified this symphony of tones, the name that once ruled the high-fidelity landscape? The name was Fisher. It echoed through the halls of sound engineering, from the gentle thump of vinyl to the intense brilliance of orchestral pieces filling a space with lush harmonics. Yet, in the annals of audio history, Fisher's story has taken unexpected twists and turns, leaving us with a haunting question. How did Fisher, the man who literally invented high fidelity, fade into a mere memory, replaced by the lifeless ticks of mass production? The name Avery Fisher resonates as much in audio lovers' hearts as the deep boom emanates from a finely tuned speaker. The company he founded in 1953 began as a beacon for audiophiles craving quality playback without compromise. Fisher took something as simple as the sound of music and infused it with life that sparked joy. There was something magical about the way his amplifiers melded power with warmth. Picture this: you switch on your Fisher 500C, the tubes glowing softly in the darkened room as the rich soundstage envelopes you. It's an experience, not just a listen. Fisher was a pioneer in the world of tube amplification, a realm we often associate with vintage charm but whose magic was rooted in high-tech innovation for its time. The Fisher lineup, from receivers to tuners, became synonymous with audiophile excellence. Fisher's products surged in popularity, capturing the hearts of music lovers everywhere. Much like a beloved song, the sound of Fisher gear was warm and inviting, reminding listeners of long summer evenings spent lost in melodies, of vinyl records worn through lovingly. In the midst of these euphoric days, the 1960s dawned, and Fisher flourished. By 1966, innovations like the Fisher X100 amplifier and the Fisher Studio Standard series began to cement their place in homes across America. A careful balance of design and sonics, these products promised to elevate your listening experience. It was more than just a title. Fisher was a part of the home, like a trusted friend. But, even amidst this success, the winds of change were stirring, carrying whispers of uncertainty. In 1969, the tides turned as Avery Fisher sold the company to Emerson Radio. The union was viewed as a strategic partnership, but for many, especially the devoted audiophiles, it was a little like selling your soul for a new paint job. Emerson, whose history was entangled with shovel-ready mass production, was more focused on making consumer electronics accessible rather than honing in on the delicate artistry of high-fidelity sound. Fisher's reputation was at risk, and with it, the standard for excellence that many had come to expect was being chipped away, piece by piece. The allure of Fisher remained, though. The silver faceplate, the glowing tuning dials, were imbued with an elegance unmatched by many. They were tangible symbols of their time. Yet, what was on the inside? Now, what was the new ownership's vision? As Fisher's name began to be fitted onto speakers made for mass-market rack systems that filled the corners of department stores, the disconnect became glaring. The same name that once epitomized premium quality became diluted, a ghost haunting its once full potential. The Fisher brand seemed to become a collection of hollowed-out representations of its former self, transforming every product into something that sacrificed warmth and audio fidelity at the altar of convenience and price. How could a name so revered slip from its lofty perch and land among brands that promised riches but delivered empty sounds? The answer lies not only in the changing hands but within the heart of the company itself. Fisher at its core was about innovation and craftsmanship, but as it rolled into the 1970s, it faced the stern realities of the marketplace, the same marketplace that surfed the tidal wave of the stereo revolution. This was a time when windows opened, and everything changed as people chased after multi-column stereo systems, colors and designs that looked right, sold at prices that nearly anyone could afford. Fisher struggled to adapt to this new speed of change. As American households flooded with affordable audio options, the attention started to shift away from the meticulous engineering Fisher stood for. Quality often fell victim when brands began to rely on purely aesthetic appeal, yet the heart of true high fidelity kept beating. 2 years after the Emerson takeover, disaster struck once again with new ownership. Sanyo acquired the Fisher brand. For many, this transition was the final nail in the coffin, for gone was the pioneering spirit and in its place, a focus on producing equipment that simply looked good and could be easily mass-produced. Fisher was now a name echoed through low-quality systems that offered little more than muted tones and a lifeless experience. Equipment that offered merely adequate performance became the expectation, and that was a tightrope Fisher struggled to walk. It became an exercise in badge engineering. Every system bore the Fisher hallmark, yet invisible fans were left yearning for products that resonated with their original allegiances to sound fidelity. Ironically, as the company's name became commonplace, the legend of its origins seemed to flicker like an old tube down to a ghostly whisper in comparison to what they had once embodied. By 1984, Fisher had morphed into something barely recognizable, an echo of what it had once meant to those who revered it. As the market rightly recognized the decline of true fidelity, Fisher's identity continued to wear thin. Customers who once cradled Fisher receivers reverently now faced cheap system offerings that flooded big-box stores, products without essence, and devoid of a rich past. As we evaluate the audio landscape today, it's easy to see how Fisher fell victim to a horror we understand all too well, the loss of soul in pursuit of the next big trend. Today's consumer expects simplicity and low prices, with audio quality becoming an afterthought. Yet, we should remember that sound is not just a collection of frequencies, it's a tapestry woven with care, passion, purpose, and attention to detail. What happened to Fisher is not isolated, it is a collective misstep that haunts countless brands seeking the balance between visionary innovation and market demands. Fisher's soul faded as the rise of the digital age overshadowed the warmth of tubes and analog fidelity. The dense walls of sound once carefully crafted by Fisher and like-minded brands now struggle to resonate in a world dominated by disposable tech. Where do we go from here? What happens when the soul of audio is stripped from the tapestry of dreams? As we stand amongst the remnants of the industry, let's take a moment to reflect on our own listening experiences. Dive into your memories. What products echo your love for high-fidelity sound? As we traverse this ever-changing landscape of audio technology, we should remain vigilant against the tide of mediocrity. The way Fisher's story unfolded offers not just nostalgia but also a lesson to cherish the craftsmanship, and to seek gear that not only plays music, but honors the very essence of the art. And so, we ask, what happened to brands like Fisher? Could there be others lurking in the shadows of the HiFi graveyard? What have we lost in our chase for convenience? In the throbbing heart of the audio revolution during the 1960s, Fisher stood not merely as a brand but as a standard-bearer for audio quality, a choice as intimate as selecting a trusted friend to share a quiet night or a warm summer evening. With designs that merged understated elegance with technological prowess, the company established itself as one of the pillars of high fidelity. The tactile experience of their gear, not just their visual aesthetics, but the very feel of the components, all contributed to a sense of reverie that enveloped listeners. You could feel the solid weight of a Fisher receiver in your hands, a robust chassis, frigid to the touch, hinting at the precision engineering within. While many brands focused on flashy features, Fisher was about soul. Their early transistor amplifiers, with their lush sound signatures, delivered experiences that took listeners to ethereal realms. When releasing models like the Fisher 400 receiver, its crystal-clear AM/FM tuning and fantastic vacuum tube warmth made it the centerpiece of many a listening room. One could easily imagine a scene, a family gathered around on a chilly evening, wrapped in soft blankets, the soft crackle of an old vinyl spinning beneath the soothing croons of Frank Sinatra's voice bathing the room in serenity. Yet behind the scenes, challenges were brewing, and no one felt them more acutely than the visionaries still at the helm. Fisher, once celebrated for innovation, was now stacking products that demanded little from the consumer, losing sight of why they entered this sacred space in the first place. As we moved into the 1970s, the landscape was shifting radically. Enter the age of mass appeal, colors, shapes, and designs took precedence over sonic quality, and advancements in technology began changing how we listened. It was a heady time for consumer electronics, where each device promised entertainment in a neat package, and Fisher had to scramble to keep pace with their competitors who went full throttle into this new aesthetic-driven frenzy. The competition sharpened, with companies like Marantz and Sansui releasing products that dazzled the eye and tweaked the heart, a high-stakes battle for auditory supremacy. The Fisher name, which had once evoked a visceral response, began to drift from critical acclaim into the realm of just another brand, increasingly wrapped inside the mundane maroon or beige packages filling store shelves, like Easter eggs in an overstuffed basket. But what of the engineers and designers who forged the Fisher legacy? Avery Fisher had instilled his love for sound into the very DNA of the company, yet with its sale to Emerson, that flame flickered. One can imagine conversations in hushed corners at the corporate offices, where the rarefied air of high fidelity had been exchanged for the cacophony of budget meetings and sales targets. It was as if they were trying to salvage a sumptuous feast, but all they had left was a few dry crumbs. The switch became evident in the late 1970s when consumer audio was targeted aggressively by slick advertising. Fisher's previously lauded products now seemed to be less about artistry and more about making a profit. The Fisher name began to feature prominently on plastic cabinet systems that boasted of three-way speakers while delivering anything but the high-quality sound that once defined the brand. Picture this scene: a young couple excitedly unfolding an all-in-one Fisher rack system from its boxed confines, the excitement palpable as they unpacked the glossy instruction manuals nestled somberly within the cardboard. Yet, anticipation turned to disillusionment as they flipped through stations, the sound too often muffled, missing the sharp clarity they had dived into the Fisher legacy seeking. Instead of that warm, embracing soundscape, many now found themselves towing the line of audio mediocrity. In this hurried scramble for relevance, many accessories were also compromised. Gone were the offerings of premium speakers that melted hearts with their rich timbre. In their place were subpar drivers, efforts clad in Fisher's once-cherished name but producing hollow echoes that would never invoke the magic of the orchestras they wished to replicate. It was like watching the echoes of Beethoven's symphonies dissolve into the ether, leaving only a vague reminiscence of the beauty they once shared. As the 1980s began to draw near, Fisher transitioned seamlessly into the world of mass-produced electronics under Sanyo's stewardship. At this point, it was no longer about innovation, it was all about quantity. As shelves filled with Fisher-branded products, it marked the moment when audio Fidelity traded its identity for the allure of capital gain. Fisher no longer held its position as a premium brand, but instead, it found itself diluted into a sea of shelf space, products blurring into one another, indistinguishable from those mere shadows of their former selves. Remember that story of the young couple? Eventually, they'd learn to embrace those shallow tones, rationalizing that perhaps they simply didn't know enough about real audio to appreciate it. The layers of lushness they longed for became merely background noise, just a sound to fill their home rather than an experience to indulge in. The world had become softer, the highs became more muted, and the heart of audio gradually fell out of consumer awareness. Through the 80s, as technology advanced and digital wares began to dominate, Fisher's identity began its sad descent into obscurity. Collectors, a proud tribe of enthusiasts who once reverently sought out vintage Fisher gear, found themselves besieged by a wave of newer, trendier brands that focused on sex appeal rather than substance, diluting the marketplace. The racks filled with products promising the latest in surround sound technology, but upon close inspection, offered little in terms of penetrating sound quality. It's here you might feel a pang of loss, an ache reminiscent of the fading tunes from your own past. Think of the crisp, warm resonance of your Fisher 800B, how it radiated warmth in those long nights, how it felt almost as if it had a soul of its own. Those experiences vanished, the soulful essence of music became nothing more than another consumer good. It's a decline mirrored in so many brands, once champions of innovation, now relegated to the background noise of a distracted generation. As we sit, dewy-eyed over the remnants of what Fisher once embodied, we must ponder, where do we go from here? Our expectations should be tempered through a lens of history. It's a reminder that while the pursuit of novelty beckons, we need not disregard the roots that brought us extraordinary audio experiences. The allure of convenience has clouded our search for the very essence of sound. Fisher may lie largely forgotten in the spread of time, but that does not diminish its contribution to the tapestry of high-fidelity sound. Denizens of the HiFi graveyard should not simply be relegated to relics of the past, they offer us insight into what matters, the vibrancy of sound and the artistry of engineering. Reflect on what gear has stayed with you over the years, what still resonates. Let Fisher serve as a beacon against merely following trends. As we navigate an oversaturated audio market, we should strive to bring forth a renaissance of high fidelity, coaxing warmth and detail from our recordings, searching for the depth of experience that goes beyond the surface. So, as we sift through the lingering echoes of brands like Fisher, we ask yet again, whose stories have been lost within another grave in the hi-fi landscape?